Hello, guys. It says that we are live. As you know, if you watch my live streams, there is a 100% chance of technical difficulties. But I will say that with it being the holidays and everything, my wife got these fancy Wi-Fi extenders for us. So things are getting up. Things are getting better, guys. So these live streams, hopefully, knock on wood. Now, my guest is in Europe, so it might actually be on his side, where we have some issues. Hopefully not. But thank you very much for joining. I appreciate it. I'm really excited for this live. I have not had Chris on. Chris from Baseball Card Collector, Investor, Dealer. Do I have that right? I think I have that in the right order.
That's right.
All right. Let's bring Chris in here. How you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you, Dustin?
Good to see you. Thank you so much for making this happen. I mean, it's 5 o'clock Eastern. For me, it's 11 o'clock in Europe for Chris. So
that's exactly right.
Late for us. He's staying up late for us tonight. How was your day? How's your week been going?
Everything's fine. It's as good as it can be. And I'll give you the proof that it's nighttime here.
Nice. Yeah, he's not actually in Florida.
No. Yeah.
So let's go ahead and jump into it. I'm going to do the obligatory, and now first off, let me just say, you already made like a pretty amazing video. It's a 17-minute long video. I remember it. And it was basically like your story getting into the hobby. And I typically, like with my videos, I'm guilty of this where I get off on a tangent. I get into, there's some fluff, that goes into it. I kind of go off the rails. That I watched every second of that 17-minute video. It was like I was in a trance watching that video. It was awesome. But even though you've already done the video and a lot of the people in the chat and watching have probably already seen it, please go ahead and kind of like, give us an introduction, how you got into the hobby. I also want to talk about too, because we're about the same age. So we're both junk wax era kids, late 80s, early 90s. But go ahead and kind of dig into, like, how did you first see a card? How did it happen?
Well, so I appreciate you mentioning that video. That video got so many positive results, responses from it. That was very cool. But yeah, I started in 1988. I remember my first pack. I know you started in 87, right? I remember.
Yeah, 87, 88. Yep.
My first pack was an 1888 Donruss pack. I was with a friend I didn't know anything about cards, but my dad bought me a pack, and I got a Mark McGuire and a Cal Ripken Diamond Kings. I still have the Mark McGuire card. My friend really wanted it. I wasn't going to trade it to him. I didn't even know who Mark McGuire was, but he wanted it, so I wanted to keep it, and I still have it. I call it my number one dime card, like from DuckTales, if you know that reference.
Yep.
And shortly after, I just became obsessed with cards throughout the 90s. That was all I wanted to do when I wasn't playing sports or hanging out with friends. It was cards. And then I eventually got a job at a card store. I was just all in. And over time, eventually I went to college, and sort of cards dropped out of my life. And then various different circumstances occurred. And about 10 years ago, I got back in and quickly realized how much I loved it, and sort of made it my career, and wish I had done it earlier. It was sort of like in front of my face the whole time. I was out there searching for something else to do, and yeah, it sort of fell in that way.
So what was kind of the, 10 year, you said you got back in 10 years ago. I mean, I know for me, I got back in 2.5 years ago. But for me, I think the big thing was just understanding and wrapping my head around third-party grading, and how there was different price points for different grades. And that really intrigued me. Was there something like that for you 10 years ago, or were you buying raw cards and, or was the grading factor a big impact for you getting back in 10 years ago?
I totally resisted grading. I was a purist snob, we'll say. And, I was all about raw, buying bulk, selling in bulk. And then at some point, some deals came up where you just sort of had to get cards graded just to make the deals work, and you just quickly realize the financial power there in grading. I mean, dollar cards become $500 cards, and $100 cards become $10,000. It's just out of control. and you can't, that's where the real money is in the hobby. But yeah, I definitely resisted it at first. I didn't like it, but I've come around.
Now, was that something, because I know when we look at the last couple of years, there's been obviously a huge boom in the last 2 years, especially. But if we're going back 10 years, was it the same sort of impact with grading as it is now? And were people kind of taking that same strategy of, and were people taking base cards and grading them, in the same way? Or was there only specific cards that, was it vintage only, or, were they doing the new stuff and the old stuff for grading?
Yeah, I think, well, not like it is today. I think there was some of that, but I mean, today it makes sense to grade things that you would just never have graded a few years back. Base cards, even low end rookie cards of solid play, you just wouldn't have done it. Today, everything is worth grading. Any star player is worth grading. There's the margins are there.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
What about you? Did you were you all in when you first got back in? You said.
When I first got back in, I was kind of torn between comic books and sports cards when I got back in. So I was speculating on, first appearance of like Black Panther, the old like Fantastic Four stuff. And I noticed the same thing. Like, okay, CGC is grading comic books. There's different price points for each grade. And I kind of like the idea that like you could kind of time up these buy and sells with movie releases and show releases. Sure. With all the Marvel movies and all the new Marvel shows and the DC stuff, and you could kind of play in that. So I was torn between both. When I got back into sports cards, I bought the cards that I wanted as a kid that I just never could afford. My first cards that I bought were a Jim Brown rookie card, a PSA 3. I bought a PSA 8 Joe Montana rookie card. And just kind of a variety of stuff like 88 Topps Bo Jackson. And it was, PSA 8. So not anything like, it wasn't necessarily had to, expensive stuff, but just stuff that when I was a kid, I bought a whole set at a binder of 89 score football. Because when I was a kid, like 89 score football was like hobby only. Like you could go get like 89 Pro set at the gas station all day long.
I wanted a Thurman Thomas so bad I could not afford it.
And I remember the only place I could find an 89 score was at the local card shop. And that was also the only place you could find singles too. It's like, there's no eBay. There was no place to buy singles. And so you're either trading with your buddies, as far as singles goes, or, you're at a card shop dealing with the dealers and they had the upper hand.
They're all the comic book guy from Simpsons.
Yeah, exactly. I remember too, they used to like smoke in the store and stuff, which you have a store full of cardboard and you're smoking, everyone's smoking. I just think it's so funny, but
different times.
89 score football, I remember it being expensive. The packs were $3-4 a pack. I remember that in 1989 when they came out. And it was just because they were basically hobby only. One of my buddies, I don't remember if he had like it was his dad that had, he didn't have a card shop, but I think he had a connection to a card shop. But I remember he showed me once in his closet, he had like 3 cases of 89 score football that was just like, that nice. he just put away. He wasn't opening any of it. So I got 89 score, that I got that complete set, just to have that. Cause I was like, those were the cards I could never get as a kid.
So what's amazing about that set is, so Topps didn't put out the draft picks the year before. So 89 scores and Pro Set is the first year to do that. So it actually has 2 years worth of rookie cards. And I think there's like 14 Hall of Fame rookies. I mean, we all know Barry Sanders and Troy Aikman, but there's like 14. I remember counting one time, and there's like linemen who are, there's a bunch.
Yeah, I remember the Christmas, I think it was Christmas 1990 maybe, or maybe it was 89. I think it was 90. I had under the tree, there was a set. I saw like Santa had brought like an 89 score football. Like I could see like a set there, and my heart stopped. And my parents, and I'm like very middle class upbringing, I was like, there's no way, Dad probably got a second mortgage on the house or something. But it was the supplemental set.
Yeah. It was a supplemental set.
Supplemental. So it was not.
I still got the Bo Jackson. You still got the Bo Jackson.
And the Sterling Sharp. The Sterling Sharp rookie card. Right. Yeah. So it was a cool set. But I mean, I remember like looking at that, like, oh my God, I got like the Barry. But it wasn't quite that cool. But it was still cool, obviously. But
yeah.
But yeah,
Right.
no, those were good times for sure. I remember
Definitely.
too. You were talking about like the Diamond Kings, like the Donruss Diamond Kings. I remember the Bo Jackson one. I got that out of a pack, and I remember just like get like
1990.
top loader, like put it in a safe. Yeah, that card was so cool.
Right. You can find that in like what, dime boxes now at the shows.
Yeah, yeah. Times have changed. Times have changed.
Yeah.
So we were talking before we came on. We'll seg in from that. We'll seg over to the fact. Did you know that leading into 2020 that you were going to be a YouTube superstar? Was that in the plan?
Absolutely not. No. Even as of, I started in March. I think that's when you started too, right?
Mm-hmm.
As of January, the idea hadn't even entered my mind. So I moved here at the beginning of 2019. We're here for 3 years. The plan was I was just going to keep flying back to the States every couple of months, going to the big shows. I love more than anything about the hobby the shows. I find them way super fun and profitable. But so I was just going to fly into all the big shows. I did that in 2019. Obviously, 2020 couldn't do that, and I was sort of stuck at home with not a lot to do in the card world, and I was looking for something to do, and sort of the YouTube channel was the only thing I could think of, really. So I basically started that, and it was a good move, I would say, or for me anyway, at least.
Yeah, was it something that you were kind of, I mean, was it within your comfort zone to do YouTube or, to be, because I'd never done anything quite like it, honestly. Like I've never even been in like the school plays or anything. Like I didn't care about any of that stuff, but I just thought that it would be kind of a cool kind of community building thing. And I kept seeing kind of sports card shows pop up, and I was just thinking like, why don't I do this? I mean, that's kind of what prompted it. I was already buying and selling cards. Why not talk about it?
Yeah. So I didn't even know baseball card YouTube channels existed, and it is not in my comfort zone at all. I cannot stand the way I look on camera. I can't stand my voice. I've never been on camera. I hated it. I look back at all my early videos and want to puke. But you grow and yeah, it was not in my comfort zone. I'm a very sort of private person. I have no social media presence or anything like that. So it was not in my comfort zone, but I'm feeling fairly comfortable now, I guess. I would say you seem to have like a natural comfort on camera, but I guess you probably developed that over time.
Yeah, I don't at all. Yeah, no, I really have it's same thing, exactly what you said. I kind of had to get used to the sound of my voice because it was the same sort of thing. Like when I'd be editing videos, I'd almost have to like put the volume all the way down. So I'm like, I just can't like listen to this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm in the same boat, man. I'm in the same boat. But I think over time, it's kind of like what you said. Once you make enough videos, then you start to get kind of more used to it, and then it's not really a big deal.
Yeah. No, I don't mind at all. But yeah.
So how do you see kind of your channel? Do you have any kind of long-term plans? Is there any any sort of topics that you want to cover with it, or is it kind of you take it as you go and take it one day at a time?
Yeah, no, I totally take it one day at a time. I had absolutely no plan. I mean, the original thought was, it's sort of funny. My original thought was, okay, I've actually been a fairly big player in the card world the last few years. I have some stories that I can share that I would have loved to hear when I was, a collector, back when I was purely a collector. Just I would have loved to hear how a big deal goes down or whatever. But I quickly got away from that for whatever reason. I was doing all like countdown lists, and I still do those, and I still enjoy those, and will continue to do those. But then recently I did that video you mentioned, and just got an overwhelmingly positive, incredible response. So, and people were saying, please share stories of your experiences. So I'm going to sort of try to focus more on that, at least for now. That's what people seem to want, and I want to share them anyway. They're fun. They're fun to relive, if nothing else.
I want to build off of this comment that Megan has, because I was going to ask you about it anyway. She says, I've never been to a show. Again, still want to, my head would totally explode, on my bucket list for sure. One thing I was going to ask you is, you said a few minutes ago, kind of like there's a lot of profitable opportunities. There's a lot of profit opportunities being at a show. What sorts of benefits do you see for a buyer at a show, like a consumer, and then also for a dealer? You know, I mean, because I went to my first show in 30 years, maybe a couple of months ago, and I really enjoyed being able to negotiate face to face with the dealer. You know, I felt like I had an advantage over, you know, being like trying to work it through eBay or trying to work it through a, you know, another avenue. Can you kind of share like maybe your thoughts on both ends of that transaction, how shows can be a benefit?
Yeah, sure. So I only go to shows as a buyer. I don't set up, or I rarely sell at a show. Sometimes I'll have something set up ahead of time, but I basically only go as a buyer. And you're not going to get expensive cards at a bargain at a show. These are all, you know, everyone there is a dealer who knows what they're doing, and they're you know, they have no reason to sell you a big money card at a discount. So you're not going to get deals that way. You'll get fair prices if you want to buy a specific card, but where the value is in cheaper bulk. Dealers are always looking to unload cheaper bulk. They don't have to drive it home. You know, oh, I got this dollar box. You know, there's 1,000 cards in it. Just give me 20 cents a card. This sort of thing. And if you know how to work that, there's good money to be made. And a lot of dealers love to unload it at those prices. They just don't want to, you know, it's not worth their time to sell through it one at a time. And yeah, that's what I do mostly when I go to the shows. Buy bulk from dealers, and they love giving discounts on bulk for that reason.
Yeah. Have you, now when you're buying at a show, do you already kind of have a network of customers and you already kind of know what they like? So when you're at a show and you're, you know, are you kind of buying for certain customers, or how does your kind of your business model work in that way, if you don't mind sharing?
Sure. No, I don't. I mean, I have customers, but I don't buy for customers regularly. I just post everything on my eBay store, or, you know, send it to COMC. Or, by the way, do you call it COMC or COMC? Just
I don't know. I think it's COMC, but I've heard it both ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always called it COMC, and then I've heard people saying COMC. I was like, I've been saying it wrong for all these years. But yeah, anyway, yeah, no, I just sell mostly myself through eBay and COMC or COMC. But yeah, so I'm not buying for a specific buyer usually.
Have you had more success, you know, over the last year or the last 10 years, kind of buying more of the lower end stuff and reselling it on eBay, you know, or do you have better, you know, or is it more, you know, buying cards, grading them, selling them at a higher, you know, selling them at the premium of the grade, you know, or is it a combination?
Well, so the biggest money deals to be made are when you buy large private collections. But those are hard to find. I haven't been in the States in a year and a half, so I imagine they're actually getting harder to find, especially with the boom. So the nice thing about the shows is that there's just unlimited inventory there. And so, you know, if you buy out a dealer's dollar box, there's going to be cards in there worth grading. So if you know how to look, you just thumb through it and, you know, find. Sometimes they'll have none, sometimes they'll have a bunch. I mean, a lot of dealers, it's just not worth their time to go through their own dollar boxes, and that's something I enjoy doing. So win-win, I guess. Yeah. But grading is a huge part. I mean, there's just so much, like I said earlier, there's just so much money in grading.
How do you think, you know, with the fractional share companies coming in and buying up inventory and vaulting it, how do you see that kind of, well, first off, do you think that's going to grow, expand in the next, you know, couple of years? Do you think that's just maybe a fad that kind of, you know, is here now and gone tomorrow? Because we have seen there has been similar type things in the coin industry. There's been, you know, it's not the first time that sort of thing has happened, fractional share companies coming into a market. But, you know, how do you see it? Do you think it'll have, you know, a big impact on cards, or is it just going to be where they're playing at like the highest levels and that's where it kind of stays? You know, they're buying the big ticket stuff.
So I don't know a whole lot about the fractional shares. I think it's a very promising idea. Just seeing the way stock market, things like the stock market are going up, people are getting more involved, much easier to get involved in things like this. And Yeah, I think I would love to own 1% of a 52 mantle PSA 8. I mean, that would be fun, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think it's promising. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know the history of it. Or what's your opinion on it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been tracking it because what I'm trying to figure out is, I just kind of had a thought, of if they start to buy kind of, because right now they're swallowing up, the gigantic cards, Honus Wagner, or the Michael Jordan rookies, or the PMGs, or whatever. They're trying to find the big ticket items. But what happens when those sorts of opportunities aren't there as much anymore? They could package up. Maybe they have, Patrick Mahomes fund where it's, 20 silver prism PSA 10s or something. I don't know. Or they've got like the color of the rainbow, and you're investing in that. But that can add up quickly. I mean, you could have, 20 Pat Mahomes, rookie cards of different colors, and it adds up to 100,000, and you could sell that off into shares. And I guess that's where I'm kind of curious. What's that?
That is such a good idea. Wait, that's what they've started doing?
Well, I think that
that's your idea.
Just kind of a thought that popped up. Yeah, no, I'm definitely not going to be getting. I'm not going to start. I'm not starting a fractional share company.
You starting a company? Let me get in on that.
Yeah. No, but I was just thinking, like, what's the next step for those companies? Because if they're going to vault that inventory, it's like if they're looking for more inventory, there's only so many Honus Wagners. There's only so many of those types of things. 52 mantles. And there's going to be collectors that just don't want to sell those. They're high-end, people that aren't going to sell to them. So how could they maybe try to diversify or offer, diversified type options? And I was thinking, what does that mean because for the average collector, if the Michael Jordan PSA 10 sells for $250,000, that doesn't really affect me because I'm not holding any of those cards. But if it starts to trickle down to where they're trying to buy up smaller inventory and package that up into something else, then maybe, if we're holding a $2,000 card, then, it could mean like prices go up on those. And I'm just I'm wondering kind of how that's going to go. I haven't bought any fractional share type stuff because I'm in like sit and wait mode and to see what happens with all of it. It's so new. So I haven't gotten into it. I was watching a podcast yesterday, and right now there's probably like 4 or 5 of these companies, and there was a guy on there that was talking about how a year from now there could be 50 of these companies. And
I was not aware this was that growing that fast. So I thought it was. I mean, I've heard of it obviously, and I read up a little bit on it. I mean, I could see it booming, or it could just die into nothing. But 50 companies in a year? It seems like a lot.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, how would 50 companies survive? I just don't see how that would work.
Your ETF fund idea, or what, I don't know what do you call it, but Patrick Mahomes fund, that's a brilliant idea for them if they want to expand. You're exactly right. There's only so many Jordan 10s that they can buy. But yeah, or you could do anything, the 2021 quarterback class, you get a little bit of each guy, or, New England Patriots, here's all the whatever, I don't know. Yeah. You could do all sorts of goodies. By player is probably the best way, but you could probably do a lot of different things.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of that's definitely a topic where, it's like, where are those things going to go, next year and in the years to come? Or is it just going to be something that's here today and gone tomorrow? I'm going to be watching that very, very closely.
Yeah, me too.
All right. So Alex at Global Sports Card Investor has a good question. Being that you're overseas, maybe you can help with this, Chris, or, provide some sort of advice. What advice would you give us international hobbyists as far as selling raw versus grading and waiting? And first off, Alex, are you able to get cards graded? Because I think he's in Australia. So I'm not sure exactly how that works.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say it's basically the same as if you're in the US. If it's worth grading, I don't know what sort of fees you're going to have to pay from Australia to send a PSA and get them back. It might be out of control. Is that something whoever asked the question can answer?
Yeah. If you got anybody that's overseas, if you have any sort of advice for Alex there, Card Hour is in the chat. Evening Card Hour. You're in Belgium, Card Hour, so maybe you have
Oh,
some.
nice neighbors.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe you have. Maybe you can help out with that. Les,
Yeah,
Alex, how you
yeah.
doing, buddy? All right.
The one card show I've been to here, there's only went to one, was in Belgium. It was about 2 hours away. There were 8 dealers, all modern basketball. That's cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, what's your, when you're buying, selling, whether it's collecting or investing, are you mainly? You said you started with Cal Ripken and kind of the baseball stuff. Are you mainly a baseball person, or have you kind of gravitated towards the basketball and the football stuff more?
I'm now everything, but I technically don't really collect anymore, but that's because I just have so many cards coming in and out that is my collection. My dealing is my collection in a way. I basically only invest in baseball, a little bit of football and basketball, but mainly baseball, just because that's what I grew up. But yeah, dealing wise, I do them all. Certainly no hockey, the lead, baseball, football, and basketball the most. And I'm getting big into soccer because there was a boom there for a little while. I was riding.
Yeah. Now, are you buying and selling soccer now, or have you kind of held off on it?
I'm holding a lot of soccer. I don't even know if that's a good idea. I just feel like the upside's really high.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I do have some soccer. I don't have loads of soccer, but I really like those first select sets, like 2015 select soccer. And then everyone knows about the 2014 Prism stuff, but
yeah,
I really like the select stuff. I just like the way it looks.
Well, do you know the this 2015 select set's a nice set. The Prism Messi card, the roller coaster that went on this year?
I did. I paid attention to it. Yeah.
Okay.
I missed the boat. I wasn't buying or selling any of those. I missed it.
No, I wasn't either.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All the soccer card guys that were just collecting, they probably did pretty well on that stuff.
That's the most amazing move I've ever seen. I mean, I guess not, but that card was $1 for 10 years, and then suddenly it's a $4,000 PSA 10, like in a matter of a month, for no reason. He wasn't even playing.
Well, take us back, because you've been in this for the last 10 years. The last 18 months has been not reality for cards. It hasn't been. So okay, let's say we're kind of going back to more of what it was a few years back. What were you kind of, what were your goals, I guess, when you were buying and selling? I know you weren't buying cards 3 years ago thinking it was going to 10x, in 6 months. What were kind of your goals? Was it double your money? Was it 50% increase, or did you have any set goals, or do you just do it by feeling? How do you typically do it?
Well, so it depends on the size of the purchase more than anything. When I was buying a collection, I would be looking, usually a collection like from a private collection going to come with a ton of work, a lot of labor, and it's going to take you forever to sell through. So you need to have much better margins. But when I was buying at shows or from dealers, not so much. Just a small margin is fine, because what was most important is to build a rapport with the dealer, have a steady revenue stream of people I could go to and buy cards at any time. So I mean, I often bought from dealers with 20% profit in mind. Yeah, if that answers your question.
No, I think I think that's helpful, because people have gotten so used to double your money in 2 months and whatever. I mean, I think that get back to kind of a regular mindset, because that's what's going to give it longevity. For people that are in and they enjoy cards, you have to, obviously maybe you try to hold out if you think something is going to get a little bump based on a certain event or something. But I think it is important to kind of come back down to reality. And maybe, who knows, maybe 2021 will be the same as 2020. And, but if we're operating more kind of in the real world, I think that's probably helpful.
Yeah. Doubling your money. I mean, before 2020, that was like an incredible, outcome, doubling your money. You would only double your money if you bought a private collection. You would never double your money buying on eBay and reselling. That was essentially unheard of. Today, you know, every week you can buy a card in there. What do you know? It's doubled.
Yeah.
It's but no, that's not going to last. I mean, people who are just getting into the hobby in 2020 need to know that this is a very unusual year and will probably not last forever. Although I hope it does. I mean, that would be great for all of us, I guess.
Do you think there's an element of kind of, you know, fantasy sports betting folks that maybe came over, you know, that are kind of used to this volatility and they enjoy that, and maybe that's part of it? Or is it just simply more people got in, you have increased demand, and, you know, that's really, and then maybe you had stimulus money in the US, you know, some of these kind of variables, people being at home, you know, do you think, can you sum it up to any kind of, do you have an opinion on that, or do you think it's kind of all the above, you know, as far as how 2020 happened?
Yeah, no, I did a video on this at some point. I think it was, and I was trying to sort of figure it out. I think it was an absolute perfect storm of everything. Everything you've said. People stuck at home. They got extra money. That, you know, not everybody's broke. A lot of people just don't have. There was nothing open to go spend your money on. You can't go to games. You can't go watch the game at a bar with your buddies. You just, what I'm going to spend all this, you know, sports money on? Cards was the only thing left. And a lot of people moved over to cards. At the same time, the stimulus money certainly played a part. At the same time, we're sort of entering a period where the peak of the hobby is our age. We're 40 and we have kids now, and our kids are, you know, 10, 15 years old, and we want them involved. You know, it's sort of like a recycling of the peak of the hobby in a sense. And some other things as well. I mean, I think there was just like a total perfect storm of craziness that arrived all at once and set things in motion. I mean, 2020, there's nothing even remotely, like, people are always like, oh, is this what it was like in the late 80s and early 90s? I mean, the card market was growing very fast then, but it wasn't like this. I mean, that was like over 10 years it grew. It wasn't like in 1 year. So yeah.
What's your opinion on, you know, because we grew up in that junk wax era where they just printed, and you could find it literally everywhere. There was never a point where you could not find, you know, the certain products. What's your opinion when people say, you know, this is another junk wax era? You know, as far just being somebody that's been in it for as long as you have, do you get that same feeling like maybe this is like we're moving more towards that as far as printing goes? Or do you feel like it's not, you know, or is it somewhere in between? What's your take on, you know, just how that's all going?
Yeah. There's a lot. So there's a lot there. There's some similarities for sure. Definitely, the overprinting is getting a little out of control. You know, we're going to need a lot of people to come into the hobby and stay in the hobby for that to last. And I certainly hope that happens. Maybe it will. There's also some notable differences that I think benefit today versus then. First of all, everything's like online now. Like you said, you couldn't buy singles. Like, it was very easy to drop out of the hobby because all you had to do was not have any friends doing it. Like today, there's YouTube channels, there's you know, Facebook groups, everything. There's so much. People are showing off their collection on Reddit. You know, there's all this stuff. There's just a lot more ways for people to stay engaged in the hobby. I imagine. And I also think it's older. It's for older people now than it was when we were. I mean, you know, when I got back into the hobby at 30, I think I was like the youngest person I knew in the hobby. Like at 30. Right. But you know, in the late 80s, early 90s, every kid in school collected cards. So it was a hobby aimed at kids. Today it's a hobby aimed at adults. And I think there was just a natural thing in the 80s and 90s for kids to grow up and lose interest, whereas today I don't see that happening as much. I don't know, but there's a lot of factors. I mean, the truth is, I have no idea.
Well, kind of like, I don't know, maybe like take one of the brands, like why, you know, I wonder, like, if Panini just took like NBA hoops, let's just use that as an example, that's and they're like, you know what, we're going to print this thing till the end of time. We're going to be printing NBA hoops, so that it does give you that feel of like, okay, I can go. It's always there. It's always at Walmart. It's always at Target. And that way the young people can get a hold of it. They get but then for the adults, they are aware that NBA hoops is printed is printed like crazy. There's a million copies. It's 89 Upper Deck Baseball, so the investors or the adults, they stay away from it. And that's the set, it's a nice set. It's a classic set, and it kind of like, I feel like that's a way that like you could kind of make sure that, you've got basketball cards for everyone. I'm just throwing that out there. If Panini's listening, I don't know, maybe guys in the chat, what do you think? Take one set, print it, and that's it.
I got to let that sink in for a sec, but that's not a bad idea at all.
it might be a terrible idea. I'm sure there's people that if they love the value of their hoops cards, they're like, don't stop talking. Like, no,
it doesn't have to be hoops. It could be whatever.
Yeah, anything.
Yeah. No, it's not bad at all.
All right. Where are we segging off to? Guys, throw some questions in the chat if you have them for Chris. Oh, let me go ahead and break in. So for people that are watching that don't know Chris's channel, it's Baseball Card Collector, Investor, Dealer. His channel is one of my favorites by far. Chris has been in the hobby for 30 plus years. He got back in 10 years back, as you just mentioned, but every single video is just, you get a knowledge nugget, multiple nuggets out of every single one. And the way he delivers it, puts it all together. You have to subscribe and check out his stuff. If you're into cards, it's literally like, it's an amazing channel. You have to be watching it. How often do you put out, I know is it 3 videos a week, or do you have, it's on set days, right?
Yeah. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Okay.
Wednesday's my High Rollers modern video, and Friday's my High Rollers vintage video, and Monday's like a wild card, whatever I'm in the mood for.
How do you feel like when you do the high roller stuff? Does your heart kind of beat a little faster when you're like, how does this stuff sell for 200 grand or whatever, like,
I don't, so again, 2020, right? But I can wrap my head around Jordan rookies, PSA 10s going for whatever, or Gretzky rookies, or, 52 Mantles, or even LeBron rookies. I can wrap my head around it. I wouldn't have predicted it. I still, whoa, but I get it. It's the Ja Morants, the Zion Williamsons, that are going for 6-figure. You're just like, what? I haven't. My brain, it doesn't quite work yet.
Yeah, I saw one. I think you did it today or yesterday, but it was like a Trae Young RPA, and it was 75 grand. And I mean, I like Trae Young, but
70 against Trae Young.
I mean, I don't think he's going to be Harold Miner or Calbert Chaney, but
exactly. I mean, he could, but that's the thing is, I mean, nothing against Trae Young. He's a great young player. He could be the greatest player ever, but Harold Miner would be pretty disappointing. But he could be, Anthony Hardaway. Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, though, it's hard to kind of make those comparisons too, because it's not like Harold Miner didn't have an RPA, for us to go after. So it's hard to kind of, and I wish that it would. I wish they did, because then we would actually have like a data point. We'd have a comp. Oh, okay. Calbert Chaney RPAs were $5 grand at one point or whatever in '93. And now it's,
that's true. It doesn't. There was no $5,000 Harold Miner, but there would have been if he played today.
I would have loved to see my parents' face when I said, like, hey, I'm really trying to find this $5,000 Calbert Chaney rookie, this RPA. And just, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
My dad was in the military. He did not understand, cards, like.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, no, so like a better comp would be, so Trae Young sells for $75,000 for his 90, RPA out of 99. James Harden sells for, $40,000. Is Trae Young going to be better than James Harden? Is his career going to be better than James Harden? I guess it's possible. Are the odds there? No. Right.
And I just wondered, I mean, obviously I assume that's people, maybe it's multimillionaires, billionaires that buy the cards, and it's just kind of like fun play money, to where it's like, hey, if this goes up, if it doubles, it doubles. If I lose 75 grand, then I lose 75.
Whatever.
I don't know.
It's got to be that. Yeah. Just the guy in Vegas at the craps table just has too much money, and it's like, Put it all on black. I don't care.
Exactly. So how do you see it? So we've talked about 2020. Any kind of, predictions? We're at the end of the year. Do you have any sort of, what do you want to see in 2021? Are there things that maybe you don't want to see, but you think you'll continue to see, or any of that stuff? What is your kind of outlook for 2021? Any thoughts on it?
Well, so I'll answer it in two ways. It's sort of the big, I don't know if that's exactly what you're asking, but in the big picture of the hobby, the hobby was growing before 2020. I actually sort of found this out. I sort of knew it intuitively, but I actually saw numbers on it. The hobby has been growing steadily for a while now. And then 2020 is just this like bizarre boom, but it was growing anyway. And I think in the big picture, the hobby is just really getting strong, and I think it's going to continue to grow. In 2021, I mean, after a boom like that, the odds of some sort of correction are fairly high. I wouldn't, definitely assume that, but I would probably predict that if I had to. I would assume there's going to be some correction at some point where something comes down. But in the big picture, I think things will still be going up.
And do you think that it's, because we're like, people will look at it as, this is a hobby that I've been a part of for years, or maybe just this year or whatever it is. Do you think that it is kind of evolving into more than a hobby, where it is like, there's some people that talk about cards as fine art, and hey, if you're spending 200 grand on an RPA, it's expensive like fine art. I mean, do you see that as a thing, like an asset class thing, or do you think it's just more of kind of like, it was a blip on the radar type thing? We have a couple of big years, and then maybe we kind of come back down to earth a little bit, and it goes back to, more of a hobby like it was.
No, I 100% see it as something. It's evolving into much more than just a hobby. I mean, it's art. It's American historical artifacts. I don't know what you want to call it. American history. It's cards are so cool because you got everything. You got investment. You got a throwback to your youth. It's art. They're just cool that way. I think it's evolving into something much beyond just a hobby. Certainly, when I grew up with it, it was purely a hobby. Obviously there were dealers, but I don't think people saw it as long-term life investments or thing. I think today they do, and I see it that way. I think it's evolving that way. What's your take on it?
I do too. I mean, and whether it's fine art or whatever it is, I think the big thing is that you're seeing big pockets of money globally coming in, and it's not like it's coming in from one sector. It's not like, because I saw in the chat, the Asian market is huge for sports cards, and I see that. I agree with that. But it would be one thing if it was just like, the Asian market driving it. But it's not. It's it's become more of like a pop culture. You have athletes, you have entertainers, you have, and then you have the average Joes like us that are involved. It just seems like there's many layers of buyers. There's many layers to it, and that's why I do think it has legs. To be more than just a little spike in 2020, and and then it. Now, do I think that it's going to be $60 billion a year industry like fine art is? I don't know that. I don't know that.
That's the ceiling, man. That's the ceiling.
That's the ceiling. But yeah, I mean, that would be insane if it was. I also kind of wonder. I wonder too. When you look at baseball cards, or let's just talk basketball cards, because you've seen a lot of it in a lot of your high rollers. You're seeing a lot of big time basketball cards. You're seeing a lot of Zion or Trays or Jaws or whatever it is, Lucas, of modern players, LeBron. How many players are actually driving the market? And what I mean by that is, like, yeah, you do have people that are prospecting, that are looking at rookies, and they're buying $1, cards for guys, and then they start, and then now it's a $10 card. There's a lot of that. But how much of the basketball card market is driven by LeBron, Kobe, Michael Jordan, and then the new, Luka, Trey, Zion, Ja? Like, I'd be very curious to know of all the purchases, all the transactions, what percentage is made up of those 5 guys or 6 guys or whatever, So
that's a great question that I now want to go research and give exact numbers on. I would imagine it's very high. Like there's a very steep slope, in terms of the best player is worth way more than the second best player is worth way more than the third. And by the time you get down to the 20th best player, they're not worth that much. I don't know, but I would imagine it's very high.
I'm trying to be careful with that because I've kind of steered over the last month. I've switched my focus to 86 Fleer basketball.
Cool.
Specific stuff though, very specific.
Like what?
It's only Michael Jordan stuff in PSA 10. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. How many you got?
Yeah. Just throwing money at those things.
Okay. Yeah. Pick up one here and there.
No, but exactly what you said though. I mean, I can't afford the Jordan stuff, but it like that one tier down. So I've been buying like Barkley, Olajuwon, and then I've also been buying like, and I did a mail day today, but Larry Bird stickers and like PSA 9. Because like a Larry Bird sticker and a PSA 9, I picked up 2 and they were about $300 each. But like the 9s are just tough to find. And then if you look at the pop report on the 9, if you take out the ones that have a qualifying grade, that are OC or stained or whatever, you're talking about,
which you should, yeah.
Which is like, it's like 450, 500 cards in total, and I look at like Magic, Kareem, Bird, those are legends. And I know that that's not a rookie card. I know it's a 7th year card or whatever, but I'm just looking at that 86 Fleer set as a set 30 years from now is still going to be an important basketball set.
So before you said the Bird is a pop 450, or there's 450 graded without qualifiers. Yeah,
there's about 450, 500 of the PSA 9s that are just straight up, don't have a qualifier. And so that's where I was trying to balance out like the price with the scarcity. But I'm not necessarily buying a bunch of, Chris Mullin rookie cards or Joe Dumars rookie cards. I love those cards.
Yeah.
And maybe I will kind of down the line a little bit, but I'm first trying to just focus in on, the big superstars in that set.
I mean, I can't really think of a better long-term set to put your money in. I mean, that's the set, right? I mean, that is the basketball set of all time.
Yeah, it's not cheap. It's certainly not cheap. But no. if you break down though, the grades and the the scarcity, there's pockets in there. There's pockets. Plus, you'll see too where I was following. So Akeem Olajuwon and PSA 9 rookie card, they typically sell for about $1,200 right now, like $1,200 to $1,500. I was following an auction.
That's a great investment. Yeah.
I was following an auction and one of them sold for $781, and I was like, dang it, like that's the one I should have been in on, but that's the point, is like some of that vintage stuff, there can be those little, and modern stuff too, but I mean, there's little pockets where you can get a deal in there, here and there.
Yeah.
Fun of it.
So it's a $1,200 card. It sold for $780.
$781.
There's your 50% return there.
Unbelievable. But that's what makes it fun. It's that like arbitrage that can happen at any point.
Yeah, definitely. That's really cool. How far along are you? So you got a Bird. You said you had a Magic sticker.
Yeah, so I got I just have, because there's 9 players in that sticker set. So there's like Kareem, there's Olajuwon, there's a Jordan, obviously. So I want to get a Kareem. I want to get some of those. I don't know if maybe I'll get a Jordan, but in a lower grade. Maybe get like a 1. Sure. Probably what I can afford.
I wonder what does a 1 go for? I'm curious.
Well, that's the thing I noticed with like his rookie cards, like whether or not you're buying like a Michael Jordan rookie in a 1 or a 4, it's still like the same price. It's not like you get a steep discount because it's a 1.
Yeah. Just because everybody wants them. I mean, people will take it at any grade. It's the
Yeah. All right, so here's a hot take from Alex Bailey. I've heard this too. This is not, I've heard this from, and I honestly kind of believe this as well. When we think about what's going to be the nostalgic set 15, 20, 25 years down the road, because this is all going to happen again. It's all going to happen again with the youth now when they're our age, I believe. So he's saying that 2012 Prism is a special set, and that has kind of an opportunity to be a good long-term set. And I agree with you, Alex. I mean, I don't know what your take is, Chris, on some of those modern sets. Have you bought a lot of the 2012 Prism basketball stuff, or where are you at on that one?
I totally agree. Sorry, who was it? It was Alex Bailey?
Yeah, Alex Bailey.
Yeah, totally agree. That's that's the, if 86 Fleer is the all-time set, it's going to be close. It might be number 2 right now. I mean, again, you could go back to, really old stuff, 61 Fleer or 57 Tops or something, but 69 Tops, I guess. But yeah, 2012 Prism, that's a set that just shot up out of nowhere. I guess I want to say this year. Yeah. I think quick. It's not basketball, it's football. I had probably 20 Tom Brady 2012 Prisms at one point that I bought in a dealer's dollar box, and I sold them on eBay for something like $5 a piece in a lot. 20 Tom Brady's $100 for the lot.
Yeah.
Oops. I mean, but you couldn't see that coming, and basketball was even more extreme than football. And yeah, I totally agree with Alex on that. 22. That's a good. I mean, the price is already so high, so investing in it's tough. But I would say that's a good long-term hold.
Now, are you planning on, if it all happens the way that we hope it will in 2021, are you planning to go to the National next year if they have it? Are you going to be able to make it, you think?
I will go to the National unless I am legally not allowed to. That's my favorite event of the year. I don't know.
Have you been going every year, for the last bit?
I've gone every year since 2013. I was, devastated when it was canceled this year, but obviously they had to cancel it. And I suspect there's a chance they'll have to cancel it this year even, but I certainly hope not.
I know. I thought of trying to get like hotels and everything locked up, because I think it's going to, if it does happen, it'll be a massive show. I've never been to a National.
You've never, oh man, have you gone to any big shows?
I haven't been, the biggest shows I've been to, well, honestly, the biggest shows I went to were at, like, as a kid, in the mall, in the mall where
oh, those days, man.
Those were the best.
Those were the days, yeah.
Because that was literally like a massive card show, like once a month in the mall.
Yeah.
I lived in Panama City, Florida, and at like the Bay Mall. And Panama City is not a big town. It's like, they're like, the mall is the place to go. And I remember walking in as a kid and just seeing all the tables, because I didn't know, I wasn't checking, like, I couldn't go online to see like when there was going to be a card show at the mall. And then, you'd kind of walk in and notice like everything's set up. Be like, yeah. And my parents are like, damn.
That's the thing. It was like baseball cards were so popular that you would just go to the mall and there's just a card show there.
Yeah. Oh, it was unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I saw some documentary, this is kind of a random side note, but I saw something, I think it might have been on Netflix or Hulu, I don't know, I'll let you know, but it was somebody that's basically like bought a mall or did whatever, and is like trying to turn it into like a retro, like trying to make it into an 80s mall again. Like putting all the same stores in it as like an experience. It's like a nostalgic experience. I'll probably live there if I ever go in. I'll probably just have to just leave my family behind.
What else is there to do?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have a choice. I had to. It was just there.
Yeah. No, but if you get a chance to go to the National, definitely go. You'll there's just so much. You can't walk it. You can't. There's too much to do.
I know. I'll probably spend all my money in like the first 9 minutes, and then.
So I used to do that. I actually have a rule when I go to the National that I have to walk the entire floor before I spend $1, because otherwise I'll just get stuck at the first table. Walk the whole thing. Let's take it slow. Don't pull all your money on the first table.
I'll have like an oxygen tank because I'm like hyperventilating. Like, oh my god! Okay. All right, just breathe. Breathe.
It's super fun. Yeah.
Awesome. So is this something that you see? Obviously, like no one can see the future, but for yourself, do you see yourself in it always? Like, kind of like, look, this is your deal, and you're just kind of, I mean, you've been in it for a long time now. So it's like, it's kind of a part of you now, I would say, I would think.
I think I'm done. I can't go do something else. I wouldn't, the itch would just be too strong to come back.
Here's a question for you too. If you're somebody, and I'm not saying I'm that somebody, but I know that there's people that are kind of like, how could I kind of get started on, my own business and everything else. Do you have any sort of advice? And we're obviously not giving advice for people to quit their jobs and go sell cards. Don't do that. But is there any tips for someone that was just trying to do some basic research, on not necessarily opening up a card shop, because that's a whole different, deal where you need allocations and there's all sorts of things that go into that. But any sort of tips on how you got started and kind of breaking off and doing it on your own?
You mean so starting like a card business, like a side card business? I mean,
yeah, like a side card business in a way. Now, 2020 was kind of the year where everybody could have a side card business because everything, But in like a normal world, what would be someone that's just come to you and is like, I love cards, I love doing it. What would you suggest?
Well, so when I got back in, I think you said something about this too. Yeah, when I got back in, I wasn't knowledgeable. I mean, it had been 10 years since I was in cards, so I didn't know present day stuff. So I immediately gravitated towards my childhood cards, Junko Axe era stuff. I think you said something very similar, right? You got back and you were immediately went back there, and I think that was very beneficial because I had a passion for that, and so I just started I guess I was collecting it, and I naturally learned it because I loved it. Like, I think if I had gotten back in and tried to force myself into, I don't know, hockey or something I wasn't that into, I probably wouldn't have learned it quickly and sort of been. I mean, it's sort of just by being in it and loving it, you sort of naturally just learn the ropes on your own. It's not work; it just sort of comes, and then you learn it naturally, and then you can grow that way.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, I agree. All right, we've got some questions geared towards you, Chris. Let's see what we've got here. Classic Pack Attack. What is your most expensive single card purchase that you made? I asked because I just made mine recently.
I know. Classic Pack Attack is a good commenter on my videos. Most expensive single card purchase. I don't buy singles. I don't buy expensive singles. I buy collections that would have very expensive singles in them. So I don't know that I could. I bought a 52 Mantle. And I don't know that I don't know that I have a big single card purchase. I bought a 52 Mantle for 15 grand once.
That's a significant purchase. All right.
Yeah, sure.
The most expensive card I've bought is $650. Yeah. I'm just dinking and dunking over here. Just
man. Yeah. But I didn't even buy it, actually. That's why I say it doesn't even count. It's my partner bought it and I handled the transaction.
I got you.
So yeah. I didn't. That wouldn't even count.
All right, Chris, do you see any real market for baseball outside of the U.S.? You mean like baseball cards, Will? I'm assuming he's talking about baseball cards outside of the U.S. I mean, where you are, have you seen any in Europe? Is it a thing anywhere for that?
So first of all, I know Will too from, this is cool, seeing a bunch of the commenters I recognize.
Yeah.
No. I mean, hopefully someday, but at the moment, there's no interest in baseball here. I guess there's a little bit in Asia, right? But yeah, basketball is really the big, and soccer, the big international sports at the moment. Germany.
Welcome to Germany.
Maybe I'm in Maastricht, so I'm right next to Germany.
Nice. I was actually born in Bitburg, Germany. So if you know where Bitburg is, that's Deutschland, my homeland. I was born on American Air Force Base, so I'm not German, but
okay, cool.
But Bitburger beer is fantastic.
Well, where is Bitburger? Is in the west or the east?
I don't even know. Sadly,
somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there. Yeah. I'll just lie. It's in the southeast.
Oh, okay. Oh, the southeast.
Yeah. All right. Hockey 99. Chris, do you collect hockey cards since hockey is popular in Europe?
Well, so I deal in hockey, but I really am not doing anything here. There's not much of a card market in Europe that I've found. At least I assume there's. I think there's a little bit in Germany and a little bit in Belgium, but there's nothing in the Netherlands at all.
All right, A Wise Boy. Chris once mentioned that his first few trips to the National weren't fruitful. What did you have to figure out to make it worthwhile?
Yeah, great question. The first few, I was a kid in a candy store and that mentality is not good if you want to make a profit. And you have expenses you got to cover with hotels and flights and rental cars or whatever. So you got to spend a good amount of money. And again, you're not going to be making huge margins on cards you're buying from dealers at the national or any show. These are dealers. They know what they're doing. And they're not looking to dump high end stuff. So you need to spend a decent amount of money and just sort of get your experience up so that you can cover your expenses.
That makes sense.
And the first 2 times I did not do that. My expenses were not covered.
This is kind of building off of kind of what you just said, Kyle. Do you find it harder to take emotions out of purchases, such as you're a Lakers fan and wouldn't buy Larry Bird, Paul Pierce, or harder to separate personal collecting versus investing? So I'll answer it first, Kyle. So here's what I do, and I wouldn't say it's a mistake necessarily, but it's where I kind of rush a little bit. For example, I kind of made up my mind that I wanted to get in on Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray is kind of like my speculative new player. He's been in the league for 4 years. I liked what he did with the Nuggets in the playoffs. And so I'm thinking like, look, he's got a little bit of a bright future. I don't know if he's going to be LeBron, but I don't necessarily need him to be LeBron. I just need him to, do some good things. And there's some good value in his cards in comparison to some of the other guys. So I go in guns blazing, like to find like all what I want. And a lot of times I'll make a purchase and then it's like, but you know what? Maybe I could have taken a look at the select color stuff. Maybe I should have like not bought 4 optic rookie cards and done it a little bit, So I go in a lot of times and maybe I should like map that out a little bit better to where, but I get excited, and then I'll go in and I'll get certain cards and maybe I should have taken a little bit more time on it. So I don't know. Do you have that, Chris, where you have, you make emotional buys, or have you been in it so long where you're like, hey, I've got my Cal Ripken PC stuff and this is all just cardboard?
Yeah, I'm sort of past that. I'm a robot with it. The thing is, I'm only
disciplined.
Which is, I guess, sort of sad in a way, but it's true. I don't have the emotional. I can sell a Cal Ripken card even that, But I like your take on the Jamal Murrays. That was a good point.
And I'll kind of do like with the 86 Fleer, I had to catch myself because you get all excited. There's so many awesome players in the 86 Fleer set to go out and buy, but then you realize, you can eat up your resources really fast spending money on 86 Fleer. Stuff. So
right, and since you're planning on holding it long term, right?
That is the plan. Yeah. It's kind of one of those sets I feel protected to where, like, if I want to sell it in a year, I could sell it in a year. If I held it for 30 years, I would be fine, type thing.
Yeah. Well, but so great plan for sure. But it does mean your money's tied up, which sort of limits you and limits your it limits your ability to do other things.
Yeah, well, that's it. Exactly. It's like I've got kind of a bucket of my portfolio that's going to be 86 Fleer that I'll continuously kind of just build on. But you're right. I mean, if I put it, it's not like, it's always fairly liquid, that set, but there's never going to be a time where I'm just like, oh, I want to sell off, I want to sell off a bunch of this stuff that I'm holding long term. Let me say, I'm at 110 people watching. That is a high for me. So thank you, Chris, for coming on the show. I appreciate it. That's the most I've ever had on a live stream. So we're breaking records over here to end the year.
2020. It's a record-breaking year.
It's some kind of a record.
Yeah, it's very cool to see comments from people I recognize.
JPO Art, good to see you, buddy.
Yeah.
Base and silver are most focused on by investors, but I feel collectors look more at the numbered, colored cards. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, I think it depends for me, because I buy a lot of numbered and colored stuff, too, which it's probably not as liquid as some of the base silver. But I do buy numbered and colored with the thought of, I can still flip it, so I don't know. Do you have kind of and I know you said that you're kind of more investor, like you kind of aren't, you're a collector because you're holding inventory, but you're always moving it. Do you have a preference there, Chris, as far as base silver versus numbered colored stuff when you're buying, selling?
No. So is referring to Prism specifically, or Panini Prism specifically, or anything
I think
selected?
we could probably say generally. Yeah, I think we could say generally with modern stuff.
No, I think there is. No, I don't know that I have a strong opinion. I mean, I think he's right. Investors sort of focus on the base and the silver. Collectors, the number. Yeah. No, I don't know that I have a strong opinion on it. I think they're all sort of equal. I think, because there's so many parallels now, the silver sort of stands out as an important one. Yeah.
When is Chris coming back to California?
I know, Ron. He leaves some funny comments. The plan is the end of 2021, but things keep changing.
Now, you said that it's your wife's job that's brought you there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's a professor.
Got it. Okay. Understood.
Yeah,
if they ever let you out of there, man, you might be.
I know.
For a while.
No, they actually have very relaxed travel restrictions, but yeah, we're very shut down. Nothing's open.
LA collection, Chris. Anything you will absolutely not sell, at least for the next 5-ish years?
Yeah, many things. I have my, I don't know, investment portfolio, we'll call it, to sound cool. To sound hedge fund managery. I have my investment my investment collection, if whatever you want to call it, and yeah, I don't touch. I don't touch that at all. It's my non-traders. When I was a kid, I had a non-traders box. It was all Cal Ripkens, meaning my friends. I wasn't going to trade them to my friends. I have a non-traders box now. It's yeah.
Now, is that all vintage stuff, or is there modern stuff mixed in there too?
No, it's a mix. It's purely rookie cards and purely established players and higher grade, because that's the stuff that goes up in the long run.
Yep. Troy, with a kind of more of a statement than a question, with huge money being dropped on rookies and second and third year players and so on, it's surprising vintage hasn't taken off more. If and when will that turn happen? And vintage, I'm talking pre-1980. So do you see, and I know, look, I mean, we've seen vintage spike too over the last 18 months, quite a bit, really. But do you see that, do you see kind of a flip happen, where it's like, you have all the modern stuff. We have the Trey RPAs that are 80 grand or whatever. Do you see people saying like, why am I putting, why not put this money into Lou Alcindor or, into Pete Maravich or whatever, or to, Barry Bonds? Let's start about there.
Yeah, this was a great question, because you're right. There's been big vintage spikes, but not so much when compared to the modern. I mean, LeBron James, 10x in a year. We have not seen that with vintage. Well, maybe a little bit, but we haven't really seen that with vintage. And I'm actually surprised by that. I would have thought by now we would have seen the vintage sort of catch up with the craziness. No, I guess at this point, I would say I wouldn't predict that. I think it would have happened already. I don't know. Yeah.
Dex, Dustin, buy my for 5K. Is it a PSA 8?
No, it's a PSA 1.
Yeah, if it's a PSA, Dex is trying to sell me his PSA 3s.
Okay.
If that's an 8, Dex, if that is an 8, then let me wrap my head around that. If it's a 7, I think that's a little high for a 7. But keep me in the. Hey, stay with me, Dex. Stay with me. I'm
and in that give it another week. It might be.
I'm definitely having FOMO with that card. It's like, if I can get one at a reasonable price. I actually did at the card show that I went to a couple of months back. So first off, 2 stories with this. The first one is I took my daughter with me. She was under the impression that we were going there to like do the show, meaning like, oh, we're going to a card show. So literally, like, we walked in, she got all like dressed up, brought like her purse. She's 8, like brought everything with her. And then we walk in and she's like, all right, well, where's the stage? Like, where are you going to perform? And I'm like,
I missed where you were going. You took her where?
Oh, yeah, we went to a local card show.
Okay, okay, cool.
Here in
that is so cool. She thought you were going to perform.
She thought she was like, all right, where do we set up? Like, where do you
set up? Yeah.
Like, yeah, where's your microphone? Where's all your stuff?
I mean, You're a YouTube star, man.
Yeah. I was like, no, we're just gonna walk around and look at cards. And she, after like 5 minutes, she was like, Dad, are you hungry? Like, I'm kind of hungry for lunch. Like, unbelievable. But so a guy there had a PSA 7 Jordan rookie card that looked fantastic. I mean, and I'm not a grading expert or anything. I don't pretend to be, but it was a great looking 7. And I was thinking, like, man, I could, spring. He was asking $4,500 for it, which,
what do they go for now?
I think it was, or maybe it was $4,000, and they were selling for about 4,500. So it wasn't a bad price for what the market price was. But it's just like, man, 2 years ago, that card in a 7 was like $1,500, or
That's why it's hard to wrap your head around stuff. Yeah. No, exactly. Like it's good. You buy it now and it keeps going, or
I don't know. But you know what, with those like fractional share companies eating up 10s and eating up all the inventory, I'm like, well, maybe they're going to eventually get to a 7, and then they're going to offer 10 grand for it or whatever,
Yeah.
Or maybe it's going to drop to 0, Dex. So why don't you sell me yours?
Yeah, sell it to them. Give them a break.
Oh, LA Collections talking about Shaq. So here's my problem with Shaq. I would love to. I have the same problem with Barry Sanders. Okay, so I would buy the heck out of some Barry Sanders rookie cards, but it's during like our junk wax era time. So there's so many of them out there. It's like Ken Griffey Jr. rookie cards. So there are some rare Barry cards, but there's just not that many of them. There's not that many options.
Yeah.
It's the same with Shaq. Like, Shaq's got Beam Team rookie. I mean, there's some, but there's not a lot of options.
Right. What is the Barry Sanders rookie? It's an 89 score. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know what is a 10. I don't know what a 10 goes for. It can't be 1,000.
I'm frustrated with that card because I could have bought. I mean, that was one where when I got back in, that was one of the cards I was targeting, and it was selling for about $400, $375, and I was kind of like, you know what? I'm not spending any more than $300 on it. So I kept on bidding at like $300, kept losing auctions, and now it's like a $12 card.
Yeah, I have so many of those this year. I was going through my old spreadsheets, and I had a LeBron Chrome rookie, and was it a 10? I think it was a 10. I paid $600 and sold it for $900. I was like, 50%, that looks ridiculous now.
It's crazy. Trading cards and more. A Jordan 7 just sold for 7. I could have doubled my money from that show 2 months ago. I could have bought it for 4. Dang it.
Yeah.
My daughter distracted me. All right, guys, I think we're going to wrap up here. We're coming up to the hour. We're at an hour, 12 minutes. So throw in any last, questions or anything for Chris. Obviously, like we said before, he's got Baseball Card Collector Investor Dealer as his YouTube channel. If you have not been there, then you're missing out because he is a wicked, awesome channel. So go and check it out. Dex, prices went up. 7s are $5K now. All right, Dex is behind. I think Dex thinks
we're getting quite a range here.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and I'll send you the 5K now for your 7, Dex. Yeah, throw any. Dominique Wilkins was my favorite player growing up. You know what? I'm torn on that too because I would love to have some Dominique Wilkins 86 Fleer rookie cards. He just doesn't get the same sort of hobby love.
That's a good. I hadn't thought of that. He was good.
Really good.
Right. I don't know what his card sells for compared to Barkley or Olajuwon or Malone in the set, but yeah, it's probably quite a bit less. Kind of a bargain in a sense.
Yeah, I definitely want to own. What is he? The human highlight reel? Is that Wilkins?
Highlight reel, yeah.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so A Wise Boy with another one. Have you changed the way you think about when to sell a player, take a profit or loss after the run up this past year? Has it changed your mentality?
That's a good question. Yeah, definitely. I've never been a flipper before. I never had that mentality. I never even had the mentality. I rarely had the mentality of, hey, I think this guy's going to have a good season, so I'm going to buy him and wait till he has a good season. But this year, I started doing it just because there were so many opportunities too. So Yeah. I would say I have changed my way I think about it. Yeah, good question.
All right, classic pack attack. Is it true? I don't know if you have any insight on this. Is it true that the card companies destroy the remaining unclaimed redemption cards? Do we know that?
No idea. I would imagine they do.
Yeah, I have no idea either. There was one up here. Thoughts on this is kind of just players. I like both of these players, Callum, Trae Young and Jason Tatum. Now, of course, depends on the card, depends on the price, depends on like a million different variables. But I think a lot of people are trying to figure out, we have a bunch of guys that are kind of, LeBron, what's post LeBron NBA going to look like? And I think that's a lot of what the speculation is, or kind of the fun of the speculation is like,
who's the next LeBron? Yeah.
Who's the next face of the league? Is
Definitely.
it Zion? Is it Luka? Is it Trae? Is it Jason Tatum? Who is it? Is it Jamal Murray? I hope it's Jamal Murray.
I'll be rooting for Jamal Murray.
Yeah, everybody hope it's Jamal Murray. All right, for my marriage. For my marriage.
Yeah.
I was joking about that. We're totally good. I've cleared all my purchases through. We're good. We're good.
That's great.
Chris, I was tempted. You sound like in a tin can now. I know. So here's the thing: is like when I'm making videos, I actually have a good mic, but I'm using my Mac for these, and I don't know. I probably need to get like something else to use while I'm doing live streams. But let me know, Chris, if you know about mics. Chris Dietrich, let me know. Shoot me a message or something for the Mac. All right. What else do we have? Michael, Luka, new face of NBA. Zion, if he stays healthy.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think that we're going to wrap this thing up. It's like 4 a.m. where Chris is now, but it's like 12:30 in the Netherlands. So I'm gonna let him go. He's probably exhausted. Thank you very much for tuning in tonight. Hopefully we can do this again. Kind of have a monthly catch up live. Make sure everything's going okay over in Europe, and kind of leading up to the National. It'd be great to meet you, Chris, at the National, along with hopefully some of the people in the chat, and do this thing again. So thank you again, guys, for tuning in. And Chris, stay with me, and we will talk to you again later. Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody. That was great.